ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to a man that is known as the most dangerous man in the music business. Our outside counsel, Charlie Sanders. Let's hear it for the man. Yeah, I have no idea. Tell them about the good work of the Guild.
So, this is one of those nights when you realize a mistake in your past. At NYU in 1979, I had the opportunity to take a course in air-conditioned maintenance. And instead, I took Pharmaceuticals 101. So, all right. Come on. All right.
This is the A material.
Exactly. You try it out on the road, right? The thing about the Songwriters Guild that distinguishes it from many of the other organizations are that it is self-contained and self-supportive. And that is crucially important, like our friends from the Society of Composers and Lyricists who are here. We thank them for coming. We are able to maintain a certain independence, not rely on those who may have conflicting agendas, contrary to the interests of the songwriter and composer community. And that's the thing that makes it special. It makes it special to go to Washington and work on projects. You guys have all heard about, I think, the success of the Music Modernization Act. And that's one of the things that I'll mention because, and this is going to be very short, I promise you. Music Modernization Act was the first piece of legislation passed for a very long time by Congress in terms of copyright, and it's a great step forward, but it is a self-regulating piece of legislation that requires the songwriter community to pay very careful attention. It sets up a situation where there are tens of millions of dollars that need to be distributed to unidentified creators, but if they are not identified, the money goes to the companies that are represented by board members of the collective. So you can see the built-in conflict of interest. You can see why the composer and songwriter community needs to be in the forefront of paying careful attention. That's what the Songwriters Guild and other organizations with true independence are there for. We are also working on another piece of legislation that Rick has been pioneering for well over a decade, having to do with small claims. It takes huge amounts of money, as everyone in this room knows, to sue for copyright infringement, sometimes $250,000 or more. That is ridiculous, since the cap on damages is $150,000. It doesn't take brilliant mathematicians to realize that we needed a small claims court to make sure that those people who want to enforce their rights against infringers are able to do so. We're working on that. I'm happy to report that Rick and I and Jonathan and Ashley were all in Washington, and we got that piece of legislation through the through the Senate Judiciary Committee last week, and we're going to be pushing forward on that. The last piece is the international one, and it is a recognition that those people who are using music to support their businesses, like Spotify, like YouTube, like Google, constantly need to be reminded that their businesses are built on the backs of creators. And one of the important things to really concentrate on in that regard is the fact that all of those companies are multinationals. They have a global perspective of how to get done what they want to get done, and that usually involves not paying us. And it involves using the law to their best advantage in terms of they don't think about anything but next quarter's profits. Rick and Ash and a whole bunch of other folks, including myself, have spent many years organizing the international community of music creators to make sure that we have a global voice as well. And that means organizing people around the world, and truly around the world, especially in Europe and North America, but also in Africa and Asia, in South America. All of those people are covered. They are now participating in making sure that legislators in each country around the world understand that culture and copyright is important, and that while we want and support capitalism and the right of people to make a profit, it is not right to have a playing field that is unbalanced to the point where it is no longer possible for creators to make a living. So that's what we're working on. We're not relying on the music publishers or the record companies or anyone else to support these efforts. We're relying on ourselves. And that's why you should be proud to be members of the Songwriters Guild. Have a great evening and stay cool.